In this video here, we're going to take a look at solving quadratic equations by factorising. So the clue is in the name here, we're going to solve quadratic equations by factorising. But what I really want to show in this video is how this corresponds here to a sketch such as this. So what I've got here is the curve y equals x squared minus 5x plus 4. So how does this method here of solving quadratic equations by factorising correspond to this sketch here? So to begin with, let's just write down this quadratic here. We've got x squared minus 5x plus 4. So we can see the sketch here of this curve. So this is y equals x squared minus 5x plus 4. So to solve a quadratic equation here, the first thing that we do is set our quadratic here equal to 0. We set it equal to 0. And what's the significance of this here in terms of our sketch here? Well, let me use a different colour here to highlight this. So we have y equals x squared minus 5x plus 4. So if this quadratic here is equal to 0, then what we've done here is set y equal to 0. And if you think about y equals 0 here, if you were to sketch that line, this would be a straight line here along the x-axis. Okay, so that is y equals 0 there, y equals 0. And why is that important? Well, if you think about the curve here, so y equals x squared minus 5x plus 4, so this curve here, this U-shaped curve, and my straight line here of y equals 0, we actually get 2 points of intersection here. Because what we're actually looking at here is the points of intersection then with the x-axis and my curve here. So we get that point there, and we get this point here. Okay, so this is a solution. Or you sometimes might also see this referred to as a root. This is a solution or root. Okay, so we've got one solution or root there. We've also got another one over here. So solution or root there as well. So that's important to note here. When you have a quadratic, at most you will have two solutions like this. You can't have more than two solutions for a quadratic. But this now kind of goes back to the method here now of solving this quadratic by factorising. So what we do to begin with then is, like we said here, we set it equal to 0. If your quadratic isn't equal to 0, you need to make sure that it's equal to 0. So do that using inverse operations. In this case here, now it's equal to 0, we can start factorising. What we do now is we factorise the left-hand side here, this quadratic, and I do this using team. So using team here, what I'm looking for here now is two numbers that will times give me the end number, but add to give me the middle number. And because this is a quadratic here, when we factorise this here, we're going to get double brackets. So let's just place a double brackets here, like so. Now working with the variable x here, if you think about expanding these double brackets here, we need an x squared at the front. So I need an x at the front of both of these brackets. Because in this case here, this would ensure that we get the x squared here. So that's fine to begin with. So now we find the two numbers here that when we time them together, we get the end number, add to get the middle number. Well, what I notice here then is this is plus 4, so it's a positive number. But my middle number here is minus 5, so it's a negative number. But in that case here, that would suggest that we need minus 1 and minus 4. Okay. So what I've done here now is I've took this quadratic here and I've factorised that. And that gives us these double brackets here. Now, if this quadratic here is equal to 0, that also means these double brackets here are also equal to 0 because these two expressions here are equivalent. They're the same thing, just a different way of writing it. So these double brackets here will also be equal to 0. Now, this is important here because what this does, these double brackets here, these give us the two solutions. So let me use different colours here to highlight this. Let's do one in red. So for the first bracket here, this gives me my first solution. So in this case here now, what we're going to do is just completely ignore this second bracket here. So just imagine we have x minus 1 equals 0. So the second bracket here, just imagine that's not there. We just have x minus 1 equals 0. So x minus 1 equals 0. It's a nice straightforward linear equation here. We just solve this using inverse operations. So now add 1 to both sides. So add 1 to both sides here. And in that case, we get x equals 1 there. Okay. So that x equals 1 there, that corresponds to this solution here. Okay. So that there is x equals 1. Okay. So that's my first solution there, but we're not done here. Don't forget we also have this solution here. So now let's do this in another color here. Let's do this in blue. We have now this bracket here. So again, just like we did for the first bracket here, imagine the second bracket doesn't exist now. So imagine the x minus 1 isn't there. We just have x minus 4 equals 0. We've got x minus 4 equals 0. So again, what we're going to do here now is solve this linear equation using inverse operations. So add 4 to both sides. And whatever we do to one side here, do it to the other. Add 4 to both sides. In that case, then we get x equals 4 there. Okay. And that corresponds there to my second solution. So this point here, that is x equals 4 there. Okay. And if you think about the actual coordinates of these solutions here, well, this is when y equals 0. We're along this line here, the x-axis. So for this point here, I'll write this down, this would be 1, 0. And then for this one here, this would be 4, 0. So we're in the same color. That would be my two solutions there. So 1, 0, that's my first solution. My second solution here, or my second root, would be 4, 0. Okay. Let me just write that underneath as well. So this one here is 1, 0. And this one here is 4, 0. Okay. And there we have it. So like you can see, it's quite a straightforward process. We just start with our quadratic here. We set that equal to 0. Once it's set equal to 0, we can then factorize. And once we've factorized there, all we do is we consider each bracket individually, solve that one then individually, and you obtain your two solutions there. Okay. And there we have it. So that's everything that we need there. And that brings the end of this video on solving quadratic equations by factorizing.